I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, I'd like to welcome, for the first time here, joining us, Anthony Bisulca, who is Associate Director of Teacher Programs at Liberty Science Center. For those who don't know what the Liberty Science Center is, Anthony, tell them.
We're the largest museum in New Jersey. We have many hands-on interactive exhibits. On an annual basis, we welcome 650,000 students, teachers, and families to our facility to enjoy engaging, exciting hands-on learning.
It's a great place, and for those of us who have been there with our kids and teachers who have been there, they know how terrific it is. There is a quote-unquote next generation of science standards.
Correct.
What does that mean?
It's a national movement that the great part about it, it's state-driven. So 26 states initially came together and formed a consortium to look together at where the science standards were and where we want them to go. And actually Liberty Science Center, along with New Jersey Department of Education, were leads in the state to help our state collaborate with other states to create what we call the next generation science standards.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. I was trying to understand what specific, without going through all the details, some of the biggest changes.
Okay. Probably the biggest change is that what they're looking at now is called three-dimensional learning.
Three-dimensional learning.
Yes. So what that means essentially is that it used to be the standards were very content focused. So you learn your biology, you learn your chemistry, you learn your physics. And in many ways, the way the teacher taught that was almost kind of secondary, as long as the quote-unquote the students got the content. With the next generation science standards, there's understanding that the practice of science is just as important for developing a mind as knowing the boiling point of water, for example. So it's not so much do kids know at what point water boils, but how do they come to that knowledge?
So give us an example of how it breaks down. So if you could pass a test that said, quantitatively, you need to answer a quantitative question, what is the boiling point of water, and you got it right, you pass a test. That's not good enough. No.
So we're trying to go way beyond just memorization, way beyond just the idea of read a chapter, answer the questions, and now you're science literate. Now it's, can you actually do a lab? Can you not just...
What do you mean, do a lab?
Well, can you perform the activities in a lab, but not just perform the activities, can you actually construct a lab? Can you define what a problem is in science? Can you ask your own questions and then figure out a way to investigate those questions? So it's much deeper learning and putting more learning actually in the students' hands.
Okay, so given the fact that, and that's one example, give me another one before I ask what the impact that has on teaching teachers.
Okay, so another example would be, for example, in physics. So the idea of you could teach somebody force equals mass times acceleration.
Say that again?
You could teach somebody, force equals
mass times acceleration.
Right. So in many ways, for example, when I took physics in high school, it was taught almost exclusively as a mathematical formula. So if you have two of the three variables, you could figure out the third.
Got it.
Just by doing a math problem.
Sure.
In the next generation science standards, they want to actually have the kids develop experiments.
So give us an experiment that would play this out.
So, for example, you have a cart with what they call laser gates now. So you have a cart that starts at one end of a lab table,
all right,
and you set it to go, and you could measure how long it took to get from that part to when it crosses the laser gate at the end. And from that, you can figure out the formula, as opposed to the teacher writing it up on a whiteboard and telling you about it.
And teachers are, excuse me, teachers and students, teachers are going to be expected to prepare students to be able to do that. Students are going to have to be prepared and able to do it, but what impact does it have on the work that you and your colleagues do to prepare teachers to do this?
Well, the main part is that we're shifting our focus from, for example, we've been doing hands-on science for 20 plus years now.
Right.
So the idea of it's not good enough now just to have the kids' hands busy. It's what we like to call hands-on, minds-on.
What's the difference?
Well,
if you're hands-on, aren't you minds-on?
You may be, but there's something in this museum world called the pinball effect, where kids will come and push buttons and manipulate something, and then they're right off to the next exhibit without actually giving it any thought, without actually staying for a while and considering what did my motion create in that exhibit. They want to see the bell ring or the buzzer go off, and then they're off to the next thing. Next generation science standards, by looking at things like science practices and cross-cutting concepts, takes the hands-on and brings it to the next level of cognitive understanding.
So it's saying to them, listen, before you run off to the next exhibit, before you run off to the next thing that you find exciting, let's sit here and talk this through.
Yes, and so we're modeling that with the teachers in hopes that then that could be one avenue they use to extend student science learning. They could use our center as a way to extend student science learning.
So and then there's something else called the Next Gen. What is Next Gen? In cooperation with Rutgers?
Yeah, and I mean, Next Gen is a grant we have in cooperation with Rutgers Newark, specifically with their urban teacher education program. And we're really excited about this because most of my work and my colleagues' work has been with teachers already in the classroom. This Next Gen grant helps us to work with undergraduate juniors and seniors preparing to be science teachers to get them ready to get in the classroom. And we called it Next Gen because the Next Generation Science Standards is at the heart of this program we're using to teach the student teachers to become better teachers.
Curious about this. Your fascination with science started when?
It started at the Museum of Natural History. It started.
How old?
I was probably a field trip 9 or 10.
No way.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
So you're 9 or 10 years old. You're over in New York.
Yep.
You're in the museum, and
Yep.
you say,
And first time I ever saw the big T-Rex.
no!
My parents had taken me places, but we'd never gone there. The T-Rex and the blue whale, I could not forget those things. I went home.
But connect that to science.
Well, I mean, for a 9, 10-year-old, at that point, I wasn't making too many connections. It was just kind of like, this thing is larger than, it's the size of a building where I live, and just I was in awe. I was in awe of how can people create such a place that you walk around and you just see incredible scientific. It took me way beyond my book in school.
You wanted to know more.
Yes.
And you wanted to be a part of it.
And I liked science in school, but that really, I said, I need to know more about things like this.
Well, you're going to be part of a panel discussion we have with your colleagues talking about teaching teachers to be ready for the challenges of being in the classroom and beyond. Anthony, I want to thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this.
The preceding program has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and 13 for WNET, NJTV, and WHYY. Funding for this edition of Caucus New Jersey has been provided by the PNC Foundation, the New Jersey Education Association, JFK Medical Center, Delta Dental of New Jersey, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, and by Verizon. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. Caucus New Jersey has been produced in partnership with TriStar Studios.